Have you ever felt certain relationships slowly draining your peace, confidence, and self-respect? In today's video, we're diving into 9 undeniable signs that it's time to cut ties, even if it's with a close friend or family member. Imagine having someone who constantly makes you feel guilty, judged, or as though your worth depends solely on pleasing them. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's a necessary step to safeguard your peace and protect your self-esteem. This video is designed to help you recognize these dangerous red flags and equip you with actionable tools to handle them without guilt or hesitation. Plus, stay tuned until the end, where I'll reveal one of the most subtle yet common manipulations we often overlook, and how you can break free from it for good. Before we begin, if you find this insight valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss essential content to strengthen your mind and enrich your relationships. Let's start this journey toward reclaiming the freedom and respect you truly deserve. Now, let's get into it. First, steer clear of those who refuse to spend money. Have you ever encountered someone whose first words to you were, "I don't have any money"? It's easy to feel sympathetic if they're genuinely struggling. However, more often than not, these individuals lead relatively comfortable lives, indulging in personal pleasures, trips, or hobbies. Yet, when it comes to you, they suddenly have financial constraints to avoid obligations or responsibilities. This isn't about poverty, it's about calculated behavior. If you've been in such a situation, take a moment to reflect. This is not a sign of a balanced or sincere relationship. I once had a friend like this. Every time we made plans, he'd come up with an excuse about not having enough money. However, I noticed he had no hesitation in spending on luxury items for himself or trying to impress others. One day, when he declined a trip we had planned together, it became clear that the issue wasn't his financial situation. It was that he didn't value my presence. That moment was an eye-opener. I realized relationships like this can't last because they're not built on fairness or genuine care. In any relationship, be it with friends, family, or a partner, mutual support and reciprocity are essential. If you find yourself constantly giving while the other person merely takes without reciprocating, the relationship has become imbalanced and potentially burdensome for you. Remember, healthy relationships are founded on equality, respect, and mutual care. If someone views you merely as a resource, don't hesitate to set clear boundaries or even step away. Your life deserves to be filled with connections that bring joy, empathy, and true value. Second, distance yourself from people who thrive on conflict or put you down. Have you ever felt stuck in a relationship where every conversation spirals into an argument? This is exactly what happens when dealing with individuals who never stop bickering. Such people not only magnify minor issues, but also drag you into their disputes, forcing you to pick sides. They don't just exhaust their own lives, they drain the peace from your relationship as well. Let me share a personal experience. I once had a friend who appeared outwardly confident, but whenever there was a difference of opinion, he would instantly turn it into a heated argument. One time, during a casual gathering with friends, we were discussing plans for a trip, and a minor disagreement arose. He dragged me into the dispute, insisting I take his side in front of everyone. That moment changed our friendship forever. I realized that if someone consistently stirs up conflict and pressures others to take their side, it becomes impossible to maintain a balanced and healthy relationship with them. Arguing isn't a sign of intelligence or strength. On the contrary, It reflects a lack of emotional control and deep-seated insecurity. Those who constantly argue not only harm their relationships, but also miss opportunities for personal growth. A wise person doesn't need to win every debate. Instead, they prioritize peace, understanding, and calmly resolving issues. If you find yourself trapped in a cycle of constant arguments or frequently being dragged into unnecessary conflicts, take a step back and reflect. Cultivating calmness not only protects your relationships but also safeguards your inner peace. In life, harmonious connections and a serene mind are treasures worth cherishing. Third, avoid people who dismiss your struggles. On life's journey, each of us carries our burdens. No two people share identical worries. Joy and sorrow are relative and cannot be measured by a universal scale. Yet, one of life's greatest frustrations is sharing your challenges, only to encounter someone who exaggerates their burdens while downplaying or ignoring yours. This behavior is more than just disrespectful. It undermines trust and erodes the foundation of any relationship. I recall once confiding in a longtime friend about the challenges of balancing work while caring for aging parents. Instead of showing empathy, he brushed off my concerns and immediately shifted the conversation to his work pressures, as if my struggles didn't exist. That experience was not only disappointing, but also deeply hurtful. It made me realize that relationships can only thrive when both sides respect and genuinely listen to each other, valuing each other's struggles as they wish their own to be valued. Respect doesn't require grand gestures. It often lies in the simplest acts. It's found in expressing sincere gratitude, saying thank you when someone helps, or offering a heartfelt apology when you've caused harm. These words, when spoken from the heart, are more than mere politeness. They form the bedrock of meaningful relationships. It's crucial to distance yourself from people who lack gratitude and those who cannot celebrate your successes or empathize with your pain. A person who takes joy in another's suffering lacks compassion, and this lack of empathy is not only harmful, but also reveals a cold indifference. While we cannot control others' behavior, we can choose the people we allow into our lives. Build relationships based on respect, gratitude, and genuine care. Surround yourself with those who share your joys, comfort you in sorrow, and sincerely wish for your happiness. Never make light of others' pain. Not only does it hurt them, but it also diminishes your humanity. By living with compassion, you'll not only nurture beautiful relationships, but also create a life of profound meaning and fulfillment. Fourth, steer clear of anyone who imposes their religious or political beliefs on you. None of us are exactly alike, and that is the true beauty of human connections. The real meaning of relationships doesn't lie in imposing oneself on others, but in recognizing and appreciating differences and building shared values from them. However, some people constantly try to impose their beliefs on others, whether religious or political. This behavior doesn't just exhaust us, it creates deep rifts in relationships. I remember an old friend who used to be very close to me. Every time we talked, he would try to convince me that his way of living was the only right way, and that I needed to change my beliefs. At first, I engaged in debates with him, trying to defend my perspective. But after every conversation, I felt emotionally drained. Over time, I realized these arguments weren't leading to any understanding. They only pushed us further apart. Pointless debates rarely solve anything. When both sides are determined to protect their egos, the conversation becomes a battle where both lose. Even if you win the argument, the satisfaction is fleeting and often comes at the cost of the other person's pride. The most significant consequence isn't just the loss of respect, but also lingering resentment and the wounds you may unintentionally cause. Wise individuals never argue just to prove they're right. Instead, they listen, empathize, and know when to step back. The true victory in a relationship isn't defeating the other person. It's overcoming your ego to find harmony and understanding. Together, you'll discover that letting go of the need to always be right not only strengthens relationships, but also brings a profound sense of inner peace, something no argument can achieve. If you've read this far, comment below with the word serenity, so I can recognize you. Keep learning, growing, and building a better life together. Fifth, if being around someone causes you pain, it's time to step back. Have you ever noticed that people who once brought you so much joy and laughter now seem a little distant? It doesn't necessarily mean you've done something wrong or that they've changed for the worse. Sometimes, it's just that life has taken you both in separate directions. Life is always evolving, and so are we. Our interests, values, and perspectives naturally shift over time. Occasionally, relationships that once felt perfectly aligned start to feel out of tune. I recall a story from a colleague of mine who shared his experiences with a childhood friend. They had countless unforgettable moments, going to movies, playing sports, and dreaming about the future together. But as life unfolded, their paths diverged. One moved to a new city to pursue a career and build a family, while the other stayed in their hometown, leading a simpler life. Whenever they reconnected, the interactions felt different. Their conversations became stilted, filled with polite small talk and an underlying sense of unfamiliarity. My colleague admitted that he initially put in significant effort to maintain the friendship, but the harder he tried, the clearer it became. They had grown too far apart to rediscover the bond they once shared. Rather than clinging to what once was, he chose to step back, not because he stopped caring, but because he realized that letting go was the only way to honor the changes they'd both undergone. Relationships are like dances. They require both partners to move in harmony. When the rhythm no longer matches, it leads to awkwardness and exhaustion. Instead of blaming yourself or the other person, sometimes the wisest choice is to accept the change and step aside. This doesn't mean erasing someone from your life. It's about giving both of you space to grow in your direction. A graceful goodbye can often be healthier than forcing a connection that no longer fits. Life is full of transitions, and relationships are no exception. The key is knowing when to hold on and when to let go. Cherish the memories you've made, but don't hesitate to let the relationship become a treasured part of your past. Sometimes, letting go isn't just about respecting the other person. It's about respecting yourself. Sixth, avoid people who constantly complain without considering your feelings. Have you ever felt like an emotional dumping ground? A place someone turns to solely to unload their sadness, frustrations, and endless grievances. While it's natural to seek support during tough times, genuine sharing should come from empathy, not selfishness. Someone who constantly complains without regard for your emotions isn't seeking companionship. They're using you as a repository for their burdens. This dynamic is not only exhausting, but can also drag you into a spiral of negativity that isn't yours to bear. I remember a former colleague named Sarah, with whom I was once very close. During a time when my mother was critically ill, I found myself juggling work and caregiving responsibilities. Emotionally, I was stretched thin and deeply needed support. However, Sarah would come to me daily, not to check on me or offer comfort, but to vent about her trivial grievances. "I hate this job. My boss is terrible. My husband never helps with anything. Despite my emotional exhaustion, she never paused to ask how I was doing. Whenever I tried steering the conversation toward my worries about my mother, Sarah would quickly redirect it back to herself. Every interaction with her felt like being swept up in a storm of emotions that left me drained and, at times, guilty for not being able to help her. The breaking point came when my mother underwent major surgery, and Sarah called, not to check on me, but to complain about my delayed response to her messages. That moment made me realize I needed to set boundaries. I told her, "Sarah, I can't do this anymore. I have too much on my plate right now and need people who understand and share the burden." Her silence in response, followed by the growing distance between us, was painful. But I knew it was the right decision to protect my well-being. We need to recognize that not every sorrow deserves to be shared, and no one is obligated to carry someone else's emotional weight. Don't let yourself become a receptacle for someone's negativity if they're not genuinely seeking solutions. Learn to listen selectively, set boundaries, and prioritize your time for people who truly care about your feelings. Listening isn't just about hearing words, it's about observing and empathizing. Use both your ears and your heart to nurture meaningful relationships where both sides feel valued and understood. Above all, don't expect too much from others. The world isn't always kind, but you can choose to be kind to yourself. 7th, steer clear of those who break promises lightly. Have you ever waited for someone who never showed up, only to hear a flimsy excuse, or worse, no explanation at all? How does it feel to realize you're not a priority in someone else's life? A promise is more than just words. It's a commitment, a demonstration of respect and trust. What's truly heartbreaking is when someone not only breaks their promise, but also forgets they ever made it. This doesn't just erode trust. It leaves you feeling like an afterthought in your life. I recall sitting in my favorite cafe, waiting for a friend as planned. At first, I thought she might be late due to traffic or some emergency. But after an hour, I received a casual text. "Oh, I completely forgot we had plans today. Sorry." This wasn't the first time it happened, and I realized that tolerating this behavior only hurt me. It wasn't that she intended to harm me. She simply lacked the consideration to honor her commitments, which spoke volumes. When a relationship becomes an emotional burden, when respect and reliability are no longer its foundation, it's time to reevaluate. Respecting yourself sometimes means letting go of relationships that no longer add value. A healthy relationship isn't built on empty promises or indifference. Listen to your feelings. You deserve relationships where mutual respect is a priority. If someone can't offer that, don't hesitate to walk away. Every time you say no to those who disrespect you, you create space for better people to enter your life. Remember, you're not just worthy of love. You're deserving of respect through both words and actions. 8th, steer clear of those who keep repeating the same worries. Have you ever felt that when someone shares their worries with you, they aren't genuinely looking for solutions, but instead seeking temporary comfort? This behavior, while inherently human and not inherently wrong, can become draining if the person continually raises the same concerns without attempting to address them. Worse still, they might dismiss your advice in favor of simply being heard. Over time, such a dynamic can make you realize that this relationship isn't fostering growth, but instead keeping both parties stuck in a cycle. I once had a former colleague named Rachel who frequently approached me to vent about her work frustrations. Initially, I thought she just needed a compassionate ear, so I actively listened and even went out of my way to provide thoughtful suggestions to help her improve her situation. Yet, time and again, she brushed off my advice and returned to complain about the same issues in every conversation. Eventually, it dawned on me that Rachel wasn't truly interested in changing her circumstances. She was merely seeking validation for her grievances. One day, I decided to take a different approach. I told her, "Rachel, I value our relationship, but I feel like going around in circles like this isn't helping either of us. If you genuinely want to make things better, I'm here to support you. But it has to start with you taking action." She didn't take it well, but deep down, I knew I had done the right thing. Listening to others is an act of kindness, but doing so without encouraging meaningful progress can drain the energy of both sides. If you truly care about someone, you must have the courage to offer honest advice, even when it's difficult to hear. Long-lasting friendships are not built on shallow sympathy, but on mutual support and encouragement to help each other grow. Remember, kindness isn't just about offering comfort in tough times. It's about helping someone overcome challenges, even when that requires honesty and persistence. Ninth, avoid people who boast excessively. Have you ever encountered someone who constantly steers conversations back to their past glories? They recount their achievements as if those moments define their entire worth. At first, their stories may seem interesting or even admirable, but over time, you notice that these tales are merely a facade for a lack of joy and meaning in their current life. This not only makes the relationship feel superficial, but also highlights their struggle to move forward. I once knew someone named Paul, who often talked about prestigious awards he had won years ago. At every opportunity, he would recount every detail of his victories. However, when it came to discussing his present life, he would deflect or avoid the topic entirely. It became clear that Paul was stuck in the past, clinging to old achievements as his sole source of self-worth. The saddest part was that, rather than earning admiration, he gradually pushed people away. From Paul's example, we learn that boasting about the past doesn't elevate our value in the eyes of others. On the contrary, it can make listeners feel undervalued or disconnected. A truly confident and content individual focuses on the present and doesn't need to rely on past glories to validate their worth. Let your current life serve as the most compelling testament to your value. Humility not only makes you more likable, but also strengthens relationships through authenticity and mutual respect. As the old saying goes, silence is golden. Those who understand this are often the most cherished individuals in any circle. As we journey through life, relationships can either uplift us or weigh us down. Recognizing when to let go, even of family or close friends, isn't an act of selfishness, but a declaration of self-respect and growth. Your time and energy are precious, and they should be invested in connections that nurture your soul and align with your values. Sometimes, letting go is the greatest act of love you can show yourself. Remember, it's not about giving up on people. It's about choosing peace, progress, and purpose. Looking back, I've realized how crucial it is to value my well-being over the fear of disappointing others. At times, I stayed in unhealthy relationships out of guilt or obligation, only to find myself drained and unfulfilled. Over time, I learned that cutting ties doesn't make me cold or heartless. It shows I care about protecting my inner peace. Life has taught me that real connections should bring mutual respect, understanding, and encouragement. While it's never easy to walk away, each time I've done so with the right intentions, I've felt a sense of liberation and clarity. These experiences have taught me the power of boundaries and the importance of choosing quality over quantity in relationships. The hardest decisions often lead to the most profound growth. I now know that by letting go of toxic ties, I create space for healthier, more meaningful connections to enter my life, and that, in itself, is a gift worth cherishing. I would love to hear about your journey and triumphs. Please hit subscribe, turn on the bell notification, and leave a comment below to share your story, your successes, and even the challenges you overcame. If you are not sure what to comment, just write serenity to show that you have completed this session. Your participation helps this community grow towards wisdom and the art of turning every challenge into an opportunity